And thank you for joining us here on the Factor Uncensored and staying up late with us. We have another great program and some great guests here for you tonight. It was a crazy and dangerous weekend for two Houston firefighters. They had to jump from a second-story balcony after someone pulled a gun on them. This man, Jaime Marquez, is being accused of the crime. Investigators tell our team the firefighters went to the apartments on Bissonnet for a man having seizures. When the firefighters got there, they say Marquez seemed confused and went to his room and grabbed a gun. One of the firefighters broke a collarbone jumping from the second floor. Joining me now to talk about this craziness is Councilwoman Dr. Carolyn Shabazz and President of the Houston Professional Firefighters Association, Marty Lancton. So obviously it's always tough when firefighters have to go through stuff like this when they're there to help the people of this community.
I don't think anybody should expect that a firefighter and paramedic showing up to a call to save somebody's life or to help them with a medical emergency should ever be met with a gun being pointed at them, period.
And Dr. Shabazz, your thoughts on this as well?
The job of a firefighter is to save lives, and their job is inherently different from a law enforcement officer. I think that the public would perceive them differently if they felt that they were carrying guns, because it would change the whole perspective of why you're there. And
now,
that
Dr.
is
Shabazz,
to save
you got
lives.
into the topic before I even said it. You gotta let me say it first.
Oh,
That's why she's a doctor. She's already
She perceives it.
She knows.
But that's exactly the point we're here. Should firefighters have arms? Now, in some state, Florida, the governor signed a bill there back in 2019 allowing firefighters to have arms. What would be the problem here in Houston with that? Dr. Shabazz, we'll start with you since you ruined my topic. So
I'm so sorry.
I think she added to it.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
I thought
We
somebody
love you, so
said
go
that.
ahead.
I'm
Go
so
ahead, go
sorry.
ahead.
But certainly, I just think that the whole perspective of a firefighter having a gun would certainly change how people perceive them, because they're coming to save lives, and you don't want them to ever look like a threat to people. You want them there to save lives and property. And if you feel that they have a gun, you know, a lot of people are afraid of police officers because they carry guns. And we don't want that same thing for our first responders, for our firefighters.
And is it so much carrying a gun or having the ability to take away your freedom by arresting you?
Well, they're not there to arrest anyone.
No, and I'm talking about police officers, the fear that people may have for them.
Well, I think it's a full spectrum. Somebody with a gun is somewhat threatening just based on the fact that they have a gun. And so certainly you're very mindful of police officers, a little bit more than you are firefighters, because you don't feel as threatened because they are not carrying the firearms. And so I think that that makes a tremendous difference, especially when the firefighters are there to help.
Right.
And you have to always be in that mode where people think that you're there to help and not feel threatened by you being there.
And what you make a good point, because people are at constant ease when it's a firefighter.
Absolutely.
You know, it's kind of like your doctor with a home visit.
Absolutely.
You know, if you're having a medical emergency. But Marty, let's bring you into this. For those who say, maybe we should arm some firefighters. Obviously, we know arson investigators who are firefighters, they have weapons, but you're saying that's different.
Yeah, you know, our arson division, we have so many different divisions within the Houston Fire Department that specialize in different areas. Our arson investigators are some of the best in the nation, and they focus on the crimes as it relates to arson, but they're TCOL certified. They are police officers under the state of Texas, but they're also firefighters. And so the jurisdictional authority under the state of Texas to investigate if somebody starts a fire or tries to kill somebody in a fire, for that to be investigated takes a specific function, a specific skill, and so they're TCOL certified. So that's a little bit different than when we're talking about the firefighters and paramedics that are out there responding to the citizens of Houston, our neighbors, our families, our friends on their worst day. And what Dr. Shabazz said is I believe 100% right. We want to make sure that we never take for granted the trust that the citizens of Houston give us, and we deal with people on their worst day, and that's something that we take to heart.
And when you think about the training that firefighters, the additional training that firefighters, you would never get out the damn academy. You would have to be a police officer. You have to be a firefighter. And that's a lot of time and cost prohibitive.
Well, you know, over the past 60, 70 years, everything has transformed in the fire service to where basically when we didn't know what we were going to do with it, it now came out of the fire department. You have paramedicine, which they can do basically in an emergency setting what a doctor can do in the ER during a life-threatening emergency. We have drugs we can put down, tubes down your throat, cardiac drugs, defibrillate, and then we have hazmat specialties. Then we have technical rescue specialties, Office of Emergency Communications, Fire Marshal Division, and arson investigators, and so many different other proficiencies. So you're right, it takes a lot to become a firefighter and be proficient at being a firefighter these days, and so you continue to add more onto it. You know, it takes a lot of time.
And between the both of you, what would be your best advice to firefighters who would come into a situation like this where they find someone pulling a gun on them?
Well, of course, the best thing is to try to get the situation under control and see if you can maybe talk them down. You know, firefighters do have to multitask because there are times when there are relatives that are really, really upset and you have to calm them down. But the most important thing would be to remove themselves as quickly as possible and as safely as possible.
That's
from
20
the
seconds.
Scene safety, scene safety, scene safety. One of the things I can tell you about one of the firefighters that was on that call, he told me, the first thing you do in your training is to weigh up the scene. Is it safe? And it's an ongoing thing you continue to do. And the second that he started to feel something and he heard the gun slide, that's when he took action. And that's all about scene safety in the fire service, looking after your partner and looking after yourself.
All right, we want to thank you both. Dr. Shabazz, hang around.
I took your line.
You've got more work to do for taking that line. Still ahead here.